Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Marvel Select Sandman from Diamond Select Toys. And I'm really excited about this guy because Diamond Select has already done a really good job with a lot of the other Spider-Man villains, and this thing looks incredible, so I can't wait to open this up and check them out. But let's get started with the packaging here. So it's the typical big, huge Marvel Select packaging, but in this case, at least they have a good reason because they pack so many different accessories in there. You can see like the diorama piece in the background, you got other stuff going on over here, so there's a lot of things in the box, so at least the big package is justified in this case. But anyways, we got some really cool artwork up here of Sandman. It says Marvel Sandman along the side. And then on the side of the box, we have some really cool Sandman artwork. He looks insane right there. And then on the back of the box, we get a look at the figure. It shows a bunch of his accessories. It shows some super old figures that have been out forever, it seems like. These things came out years ago. And they've already given us a new Spider-Man since this one, but I really wish they'd revisit Green Goblin. I think they could do a way better job these days with what they have going on. And then we have a Sandman bio over here. And then last but not least, it gives us some information on who worked on the figure. It says that it was designed by Eamon O'Donoghue and sculpted by John St. John. So that's always good stuff when they put that in there. But enough about this big crazy box. Let's rip it open and take Sandman out. Okay, so here he is out of the box, and this figure's looking really nice. He definitely screams classic comic book Sandman. You have the iconic green striped shirt on him with the two-tone green that looks really nice. You've got the lighter color and then the darker green in there. And the shirt has a bunch of nice sculpted details. You can see all the folds and wrinkles and stuff sculpted in there. It all looks really good. Check out the back. You have some more sculpted details in there, and he just looks super muscular and big and intimidating. I really like the build of this figure. He looks really good. And then down into the pants, they decided to go with some gray pants instead of brown. Usually I think Sandman has brown pants, but the gray works. I think it looks nice, and there's a lot of sculpted details in here that all looks good. Then his shoes look really good too. And yeah, just overall, the sculpt on this figure is really nice. I do have some paint imperfections on this arm here, as you could see right there. And then I have like a chip on the fist. But, you know, not a big deal. And yeah, I think the figure looks really good. One thing I'm not crazy about with this figure is that he looks like he's kind of hunched over. And you can't get him to stand up straight because in typical Marvel Select fashion, there is a mid-torso joint, but it doesn't get very much movement. So you can't get him to stand up straight. And when you try to push him back, he just kind of wants to come apart right here at the waist because that's where the interchangeable leg feature is at. So, you know, you can't really get him to stand up straight. I think that's one thing I'm not crazy about. I do wish this torso worked a little bit better, only because the way that it affects the overall look of the figure. You know, that's the main thing. But yeah, you know, it kind of just looks like he's slouching. And as a result of that, it kind of makes it seem like his head is bigger than it would look if he was standing straight up, because he's kind of leaning forward and it just kind of makes his head look big. And I know that's a big complaint that people have already with this figure. A lot of people are saying that his head looks too big, and that might be part of the reason why. It's because he's kind of leaning forward with it, you know. But that's one flaw, and it's not a huge thing. It's just something that kind of jumped out to me right away. Aside from that, I have no big issues with the way the figure looks or the sculpting or anything like that. I think they did a really good job with the sculpt. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about this face sculpt, but I don't know, man. I like it. Of course, I would have preferred a crazy screaming face, but I think this works good for Sandman, especially when you consider that, you know, a lot of times he's portrayed as like a sympathetic type of villain, you know, so he doesn't need to be screaming all crazy all the time. And sometimes he's like an anti-hero or like a hero. He's been on the Avengers. He helps out Spider-Man every now and then. So, you know, I'm okay with just a, you know, regular face, and it'll look cool with just him standing there. Of course, I would have preferred a crazy screaming face. The ideal situation would have been if they included both. I think that would have been awesome. But in this case, I think it works good for Sandman. And he does have the iconic weird wavy hair that a lot of Spider-Man villains used to have. And it looks really good too, because it looks like it's painted in black and then highlighted with some brown. So that's really dope. But yeah, what do you guys think about this face sculpt? I'm sure a lot of people are going to say they would have preferred a crazy screaming face, and I definitely agree with you guys, but I just don't think this one is all that bad. I think it looks pretty good. He does look angry, you know, so it's not like he's smiling or something, but even that might have been okay. But yeah, I like this angry kind of stoic facial expression. That's awesome, and it's very well done. The sculpting work is great on it. Got the crazy hairline, widow's peak there. But yeah, overall, he definitely screams comic book Sandman, so I'm very happy with the way that he's sculpted and the way that he looks. It does come with a bunch of really cool accessories, but let's start off with the simple stuff. First off, he has a pair of fists. And then he has a set of partially open hands. And then only for his right side, he does come with 2 additional normal hands. This one is just another open hand, but this one's even more open than the previous pair. And then for the last normal one, he has like a gripping hand for his right side. Okay, so now on to the cool stuff. First off, we have this big fist made of sand, and this thing looks incredible. Check out the sculpting work on that and the paint detail. Everything about this thing looks really nice. And look how big it is. It looks awesome. One thing I do wish is that he came with 2 of these, one for each side, because as is, he only has it for his left side. And same thing goes for this open type of hand. I'm not sure why they did it like that, where you could only have like a hand made of sand that still looks like a hand on one side, if that makes any sense. I wish they would have had 2 of each of these. I know that's kind of being greedy, but it would have been nice to have like a hand made of sand on both sides versus just, you know, having it on one side, and then the opposite side either has to be normal or you have to use the other accessories that he came with, which is cool. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but I think it would have made more sense to have, you know, 2 fists. But anyways, it does look really cool. And then this one is awesome. Check out how like the sand is like coming off the fingertips. That is super dope. And it's sculpted equally as good as the other one. And the way this works is you just take it off right here at the forearm, and then these plug right on. They're a little bit tight, but they do go on, no problems at all. And then you have this big spiked ball thing, and this thing is awesome too, but it's a really tight fit to get it onto the arm. I actually had to carve out the hole just a little bit to get it to fit. But once I did that, I've had no problems with it. And this thing looks really cool too. I love all the different colors of brown in there. You have different textures and all kinds of good stuff. The spikes are a little bit warped from being in the packaging, and at first I thought maybe that's how it was supposed to be, but then I realized that it was just kind of stuffed in there, so these things kind of started to bend, as you could see there. But it's really not a big deal. They're kind of soft plastic, so you could just kind of shape them back into the shape they're supposed to be. But yeah, this thing is really cool. And let's see, let's take this one off. And then we have this one here, and this one pops right on without any problems. And it's like a hammer with, you know, spikes on it. One thing about the interchangeable arms, the fact that it's at the forearm kind of makes it hard to bend his elbow once it's there, because once you put it on there and start moving it like that, it just kind of wants to come off. So, you know, that's one thing. But yeah, this looks really good too. Check that out. They really went all out with the accessories with this guy, so that is really cool. And then he does come with this display base that has like pegs on it, so you could stand the figure on there into the pegs, just peg them right onto there. And it's pretty tight on there, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. And there you go. That's cool. You got some display options. And then for the final accessory, he has this, and this is an interchangeable piece for his legs, so you could pull them apart right there at the waist, stick the figure onto this. And look at that. That thing is awesome. And just this alone almost makes it worth picking up this figure, because this is incredible, and this really separates him from other Sandman figures that are out there. But look at that. That is so dope. And I just love the detail on this thing too. There's a lot of different color browns and sand textures and things like that. All of it looks really nice. And I really like how at the waist here, it kind of looks like it's traveling up his body a little bit, you know? That's awesome. But yeah, they did a really good job with all the different sand pieces. And just look at that. That's so cool. And now for the size comparisons, I'll do a few with his regular legs, and then I'll do a few with his Sandstorm lower half. So to get it started, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Hasbro Build-A-Figure Sandman and the Toy Biz Spider-Man Classic Sandman. And if you're questioning whether or not this Marvel Select Sandman will fit in with your Marvel Legends, I think this kind of answers your question. I think he will fit, because as you can see, he's a little bit smaller than the Hasbro Build-A-Figure. So if you're okay with that as your Sandman, I think that you'll be okay with this Marvel Select one as your Sandman. And I know Marvel Select doesn't do figures, you know, to fit in with Marvel Legends, but it's unavoidable. People are always going to question that and wonder how they could fit in Marvel Select figures with their Marvel Legends. And a lot of times it doesn't work out, but in this case, I think it does. And then next up, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And as you can see, he's much taller than Spider-Man, but I think that works perfectly fine for Sandman. He's always like a different size and stuff, but it does look even better when you have his Sandstorm lower body. And now we have him alongside the Mafex comic book Spider-Man and the Mezco 112 Collective Black Suit Spider-Man. And once again, I think he looks really good next to them too. And then now here we have him alongside the Marvel Select Lizard and the Marvel Select Carnage. And then here we have him with the Sand Tornado lower legs next to these guys. And I think no matter what, he's always just going to look better with his legs like this. Next up, we have him with the Hasbro Marvel Legends Scorpion and the Hasbro Marvel Legends Green Goblin. And here's how he looks next to them with his lower legs on. And then now here we have him alongside the Marvel Select Spectacular Spider-Man and the Marvel Select Venom. And even though I feel like this Sandman does work really good with smaller scale figures, I still think that he looks good next to Marvel Select Spider-Man figures. And then he does look really good next to them with his Sandstorm lower legs. And I really like the way this thing is kind of curved, you know, it kind of makes it look like it's in motion a little bit. That's so dope. But anyways, yeah, they look awesome next to him. And then now here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Kraven and Marvel Legends Mysterio. Here he is alongside the Marvel Legends Dr. Octopus and Marvel Legends Electro. So I think he looks pretty good with his Sinister Six buddies. Unfortunately, I don't have a good Vulture figure. Hopefully when that new one comes out, I could grab that. And I also need a classic Electro. I think the only one available is a Toy Biz one, and I wasn't into that. And I need to really get that 2-pack Kraven the Hunter, so I have the more classic looking one. But for now, this is what I have, and I think they look pretty good all together. And you could definitely set up a Sinister Six display around this Sandman figure with this crazy Sandstorm leg thing going on. And just in case anyone is curious, the head from the Build-A-Figure Sandman cannot really fit on this body. First off, the ball joint is just way too small. As you could see when I removed the head, the peg stayed stuck in the head. But you could see right there that it's small and it just wouldn't fit for the Build-A-Figure head. And even if it could, it's just too big, as you could see there. So that wouldn't really work out. I mean, it would have been cool if he came with the head that had this kind of facial expression, but he didn't. So, I don't know. You'd have to do something else. You can't really use this Build-A-Figure head for that. And the articulation on this guy isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's pretty decent. I really don't feel like Sandman needs to be crazy articulated, so I'm okay with what we have going on here. I do feel like Marvel Select has gotten a lot better with articulation in recent years, and this guy kind of feels like a step back because this kind of seems like the standard articulation for a Marvel Select figure from like 2 or 3 years ago. But, you know, it's fine. It works for Sandman, so I'm not too mad about it. But let's get into it. His head is able to move side to side. He could look up to only about right there. More importantly, he could look down to right there. He's got a little bit of tilt because the head kind of sits high on the neck, so there's some room for tilting. And then for his torso, he does have the notorious Marvel Select mid-torso joint that doesn't really bend much at all. It does twist, and there's not really side to side either, so I might have to pop this apart and see what I could do in there. Maybe shave it down and increase the movement just a little bit. And he does have a waist swivel. He has ball jointed shoulders, so his arms can go all the way around. They could come out to the side. He has upper bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, but they do get a decent bend. It looks like just about 90, so I'm okay with that. And then he has a swivel at the forearm where it comes apart to, you know, for the interchangeable pieces. And then he has a swivel at the wrist and a hinge at the wrist. And for his legs, let's see here. They could come out to the side to about right there. They could come forward to about right there. They could come back to right there. A lot of times I'm not a big fan of these hips, but I think they work good on Sandman. And just when characters have jeans, I think it kind of works out. And then you have the upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, so that's nice and they get a good bend. And then you have a swivel at the foot, and you also kind of have a rocking ankle. I think there's a little ball joint in there. It's kind of hard to tell because of the pants here. But yeah, he's got a little bit of movement there. And then you could bring his foot forward to right there and bring it up to right there. So, as I said, not the best articulation ever, but it's okay for Sandman. Okay, guys, so overall, I really like this figure. I don't think that it's perfect. It definitely has its flaws, but for the most part, I feel like the positives outweigh the negatives, and I'm very happy with this purchase. The main things that I like about this figure are the accessories and the sculpt. The articulation is okay, but it could have been a little bit better, but for the most part, I think it works for Sandman, but it's probably the weak point in the figure. But the sculpt is very nice, and I do wish that he came with an alternate screaming head. I think that would have been perfect. And aside from that, I think the accessories are incredible. I love all the different sand effects. I really like the lower half, the interchangeable lower half piece. That thing is awesome and it's unique. No other Sandman figure has that, so that's super dope. And yeah, just in general, I think it's a really good buy. This figure costs $30. He comes with a crazy amount of accessories, a really good sculpt, and pretty good articulation. So for the most part, it's a good purchase, I would say. And you know, it just might be my favorite Sandman figure, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if I want to say that right now because I like the Build-A-Figure a lot. but I think this one offers a little bit more than the Build-A-Figure. And the Toy Biz one is really good too. So between the three of them, it's kind of close. I might have to think about it a little bit and then do a comparison video down the road or something. But you know, all three of them are really cool, but this one definitely brings a few things to the table that the other two do not. So I don't know. I have to think about that for a little bit. But anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a thumbs up. Thank you very much. Peace.
Crispy.